When I arrived at Jake's apartment, he looked groggy as he opened the door for me. I simply stood there. "We're breaking up." Jake froze, asking, "Baby, what did I do wrong now? You didn't answer my calls," I said. Jake chuckled, attempting to take my hand as he always did. "I was up too late playing games with the guys last night, so I slept a little late and missed your call. As an apology, how about I clean up and take you out for that Thai food place you always wanted to try?" We had been dating for 7 years, and he clearly thought I was just throwing a tantrum. I pulled away coldly. "No need. I'm leaving." He never took my words seriously. If that's the case, then I didn't need him anymore. "Just because I missed your call this morning." Jake gripped my wrist. "Clara, stop making a fuss." "Okay, I truly didn't mean to. I just bought a new game yesterday and played a little late, which I told you about." I shook off his hand, my voice icy. "I don't want to discuss it further." "Let go." Jake persisted. "You don't like Thai food. How about Italian? A new trendy Italian place just opened downtown. We can go there. I just bought a Fuji camera." I looked at Jake. "I don't like you anymore." Jake was stunned. Just then, Valerie emerged from the guest room behind him, wearing loose-fitting pajamas. "Jake, what's going on? You woke me up in the guest room." I looked at Valerie, who had just woken up, and smiled bitterly. This was Jake's buddy, a woman. She was also the one who had sent me an ambiguous picture, making me believe she had slept with him. Valerie walked up to me, smiling brightly. "Clara, what happened?" Jake rubbed his temples. "Missed a call. She's throwing a fit." Valerie's eyes widened. She rushed forward and linked her arm through mine affectionately. "Clara, Jake and I were up all night playing games. He truly didn't miss your call on purpose. The game just launched, and I got carried away last night, dragging Jake into an all-nighter. Please don't be mad at him. He really didn't mean it. We aren't that close." I pulled my arm away and looked at Jake. "Did you change the password?" Jake frowned, clearly confused by my question. I repeated myself. "Jake, you changed the password to your apartment door lock." "I couldn't open it." Jake denied it. "How is that possible? My door code has always been our anniversary." I turned my gaze to Valerie next to me. She inevitably spoke up. "Jake, you had the guys over for a party a few days ago. Most of them don't know Clara, so I took the liberty of changing the door code. It's just a small thing, right? We can just change it back." "Clara is being overly dramatic." Jake sighed and looked at Valerie. "Valerie, Clara isn't as carefree as you are. She's sensitive, and it's normal for her to care about these things. Apologize to her." He rubbed his temples, sounding exhausted. I laughed derisively and voluntarily stepped back. "No need. I'm not as open-minded as your buddy. Your friends don't know me, but they all know how close you are to Valerie. She brought a gaming console to your house. You let her in and even stay the night. She can even change your door lock code. So, Jake, why don't you two move in together? Get married, and I'll raise a toast at your wedding." "Okay, Clara, that's going too far." Jake frowned, stepping forward, subtly shielding Valerie. "Valerie and I have been friends for years. If anything was going to happen, it would have happened already. Why are you being so unreasonable now? Besides, we played games too late yesterday. I couldn't exactly make a girl go home alone, could I? And she slept in the guest room." "Don't be so aggressive in your speech. Valerie is right. It's just a password. You can just change it back. If anything was going to happen, it would have happened already." What a phrase. I swallowed the bitterness and stared intensely at Jake. "So you do know Valerie is a woman?" Jake was taken aback. I turned and walked away without hesitation. Valerie's voice trailed after me. "Jake, Clara is so angry. Aren't you going to chase her?" "It's nothing. We're practically engaged. She's just throwing a tantrum. She'll be fine in a bit. It's not a big deal." Jake's voice was low, but it stung fiercely. But what he didn't know was that I was already preparing my application to go abroad. I wouldn't be coming back. Back in my shared apartment, I packed my suitcase. "Clara, are you finally moving in with your boyfriend?" My roommate came out upon hearing the noise. Are you really not renewing the lease? I wish you two the best." I felt a moment of disorientation. Yes, everyone knew how great Jake and I were, and ID told my roommate I planned to move in with him when the lease ended. Everyone thought we would eventually marry. My hands paused, and I decided to explain. "No, we broke up." My roommate was surprised. "Why?" You and Jake are the model couple from our college class. What happened? I just don't love him anymore. I answered concisely. The roommate looked puzzled. That makes no sense. Jake is handsome. And he was so good to you. He remembered everything you liked, took you to concerts and art galleries, and practically gave you everything you asked for. That time your period started, and I was away. He rushed over in the pouring rain at midnight to take care of you. He was just asking me if you liked anything new recently. Why suddenly stop liking him? Why did I suddenly stop liking him? Probably because she was talking about the old Jake. The boy who held me in his palm and stood up for me. Not the boyfriend who would now accuse me of being aggressive because of a buddy. It was that simple. I gave a bitter smile. Perhaps it's just because he didn't answer my call this morning. Seeing I didn't want to talk more, the roommate sighed and didn't press. A moment later, she shook her phone and asked cautiously, "Is it because of Valerie?" She showed me Valerie's latest post of 9-panel grid of pictures related to her and Jake playing games. The center photo was a close-up selfie of the two of them. Valerie's head nearly resting on Jake's shoulder. They were holding controllers and smiling happily. The surrounding photos were all screenshots of game scores and rankings, showing they played very well. The comment section was filled with praise from Jake's friends. Wow, Val is amazing. That clearance speed is insane. Only Jake can keep up with Val's level. I haven't even beaten the first boss yet. Val, when are you going to carry me? Or get Jake to carry me? Am I the only one who thinks Val and Jake look great together? What a powerful duo. Anyone unfamiliar with the situation would think Valerie and Jake were the couple who had been dating for 7 years and were about to get engaged. I finished packing my suitcase, and before I could speak, my roommate started cursing the comments. Seriously, what is wrong with Jake? Doesn't he realize how ambiguous these pictures are? And his friends, they're clearly rooting for them. Where do they put you? The gaming console they were using was the birthday gift I gave Jake. I added calmly. And just 2 nights ago, he promised me he wouldn't cross any boundaries. I see. My roommate looked at me worriedly, then gently hugged me. Clara, if that's the kind of guy he is, we don't need him. But your lease with the landlord is up. Where are you going to stay? I'm staying at my relative's house temporarily. I'll also quit my job and go abroad for further studies. I looked at my roommate and smiled. Don't worry about me. With my skills, what job can I find? My roommate sighed. That's true. You only took your current job because Jake invested in the company. We all thought you'd continue your studies, though, considering everyone knows your research capability. But promise to take good care of yourself. Call me if you need anything. I'm always your strongest backup. I will. I nodded. Just then, Jake sent me a message. Baby, are you feeling better? I ordered you some fried chicken and boba tea. Please don't be mad at me. Okay, puppy dog eyes emoji. I stared at the message for a long time, then blocked and deleted all his contact information. After briefly greeting my aunt and dropping off my luggage, I took a taxi back to the university. I needed to retrieve my academic transcripts and say goodbye. I walked along the newly renovated track, listening to the laughter of younger students, when I ran straight into the people I least wanted to see. Jake and Valerie. Valerie was intimately holding Jake's arm. When she saw me, she immediately flashed a bright smile. Clara, you're here too. Jake quickly walked over. Why are you back at school? I was just about to call you. The delivery guy said you didn't pick up the food. I gave him a cold look, my gaze falling on Valerie's arm wrapped around his. Jake finally realized, awkwardly pulling his arm away. Valerie said she wanted to see my alma mater, so I brought her for a walk. Yep. I've always regretted never seeing Jake's university. Valerie chimed in cheerfully, leaning in. Jake and I are just good friends. We're used to being this way after all these years. Clara, you don't mind, right? Feeling disgusted, I turned to leave, but Jake grabbed me, sounding slightly wronged. Clara, are you still mad? I know you want calm down quickly. I bought you your favorite handbag. Don't be mad at me. Forgive me. Okay. I promise I'll never miss your call again. He pulled a luxurious gift box from his backpack. It was the latest model from a certain high-end brand. The exact style I had mentioned liking on social media recently. Memories rushed back. The Jake from college was always like tea. She remembered every preference I casually mentioned and tracked my cycle meticulously. Whenever he made me angry, He would carefully write me long apologies and spend money on flowers and gifts to win me back. I often skipped breakfast because I overslept, so he would wake up early to bring me food, saying he needed to take care of my stomach. When I was down and stayed up late, he would chat with me and stay up late too. When I asked if he shouldn't tell me to sleep, he said my feelings were his priority. His thoughtfulness and tenderness captivated me. It was also why I softened repeatedly after Valerie appeared. Valerie suddenly spoke up. Jake put a lot of effort into this bag. We shopped at several stores. She patted Jake's shoulder proudly. I was the one who helped him pick this color. Though, doesn't it suit Clara perfectly? I looked up sharply. You picked it out. Jake smiled and nodded. Yeah, Valerie always has great taste. Valerie draped her arm around Jake's neck. Of course. Your old man knows style. Jake naturally placed his arm around her waist. They laughed together, completely unguarded. The scene felt like a needle stabbing my eyes. Jake. My voice started to shake. Do you remember what you said on our first date? He paused. What? You said, I must choose Clara's gifts myself, because only I know what she truly loves. I hurled the gift box at him. And now, the packaging scattered on the ground, revealing the exquisite handbag inside. Valerie's face changed. Clara, what do you mean by that? I tried to help and that was wrong. Shut up. I interrupted her. I'm talking to Jake. It's not your place to interject. Jake frowned. Clara, stop this. Valerie is my friend. Show her some respect. Friend. I scoffed. Since Valerie came back, how many times has she called you away under the guise of we haven't seen each other in so long? Last time, you dumped me in the restaurant when she called, and now you let her stay at your place. I'll say it again. If you two get married, don't send me an invitation. I find it distasteful. People around us were starting to stop and stare. Last time, I went through a lot of trouble to get tickets to Jake's favorite esports match. And our other friends were there too. Valerie pouted in defense. Jake, I even heard you say you were going to buy flowers for her then. Didn't you say you made up the flowers that day? Were they also chosen by you? I was trembling all over. That night, I had been furious the first time I seriously doubted his feelings. But Jake had returned with an excellent attitude, bringing a huge bouquet and soothing me until past midnight. I also knew that match featured his favorite player, so I forgave him. What else? Valerie said smugly. Did you expect Jake, the straight man, to figure it out? Clara, since I came back, all your gifts have been chosen by me and Jake. I looked at Jake, disbelief flooding me. I saw you liked what Valerie picked out, so I didn't interfere. Jake awkwardly turned his head away, reaching out to grab me. Clara, let's find somewhere to talk properly. There are too many people here. No need. I slapped his hand away and took a deep breath. Jake, you disgust me. The early winter wind chilled my cheeks, but I felt no cold, only walking forward relentlessly. Jake didn't follow. After walking for what felt like an eternity, a gentle voice came from behind me. Clara. I turned around. Miles, Jake's former college roommate. We were in the same student club freshman year, and we connected over our shared interest in literature. But after I started dating Jake, we consciously distanced ourselves and gradually lost touch. It really is you. He hurried down the steps. Long time no see. I remember you. Jake's college roommate. I automatically labeled him with a Jake association, avoiding eye contact. What are you doing here? I'm a teaching assistant in the economics department now. He looked down. And you? Back to pick up documents. I nodded, suddenly feeling a tightness in my throat. Miles keenly sensed my mood but didn't ask further. He checked his watch. Want to grab coffee? I hesitated. Okay. I heard you're going abroad for advanced study. He asked directly. I was surprised. How did you know? A professor mentioned it. He adjusted his glasses. Professor Zhang regrets that you're leaving. He said you could have stayed here for your PhD. I stirred the coffee in my mug, looking down. Some things require a change of scenery. Miles didn't press. Instead, he pulled a folder from his bag. These are materials I put together for a few schools. Considering your research direction, I thought these might suit you. I opened the folder. Inside, there were not only detailed introductions to the universities, but also highlights of each economics department, advisor information, and even local cost of living estimates. This is incredibly detailed. I looked up at him. When did you prepare this? I started organizing it after I heard you might go abroad, he said calmly. I spent a few years overseas, so I have some experience to share. We talked for a long time. Miles didn't ask a single question about Jake. He focused intently on analyzing the pros and cons of each university, even mentioning several programs I hadn't considered, but that were highly relevant to me. If you need a letter of recommendation, he said as we were leaving, I'd be happy to help. I hesitated. Can I have your contact information? Miles pulled a business card from his pocket. This is my work email and phone number. Contact me anytime if you have questions. My name is Miles, he added. His demeanor was polite and restrained, maintaining a perfect distance. I nodded, not mentioning that I remembered his name. Got it. It was dark when I left the coffee shop. Clara, Miles suddenly called out. Whatever decision you make, remember to live for yourself. I knew he had seen me and Jake. I know, I answered softly, the word almost lost in the wind. I didn't rush away. If I left now, I didn't know when I'd return. I walked aimlessly, unconsciously finding myself in front of the economics building. The lecture hall on the third floor was still the place where Jake and I first met. During freshman microeconomics, Jake was late. He rushed in, bumping right into me in the front row. He frantically helped me gather my scattered books, looking up with an apologetic smile. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. His eyes were bright then, as if filled with starlight. Later, he confessed he had noticed me earlier and deliberately bumped into me to start a conversation. I laughed and called him manipulative, but he said earnestly, because the moment I saw you, I knew I had to meet you. I walked on, reaching the small garden behind the library. There was a long bench here, where we often met. Jake loved to read me his poems, which weren't very good, but he always blushed fiercely. Clara. He suddenly put down his notebook and held my hand. I promise I'll give you the best life someday. His palm was warm, and his gaze was so firm that I believed the promise would surely come true. Turning the corner was the dining hall. Sophomore year. I had a high fever. Jake skipped class, stood in line for half an hour to buy my favorite congee. When he delivered it outside the dorm, the congee was still piping hot, but he was shivering cold. Eat it while it's hot. He pressed the bowl into my hands. I specifically asked the auntie to add extra ginger. These memories flashed through my mind like a montage. Every scene as vivid as yesterday. Jake truly gave me his whole heart once. That intricate care wasn't fake. But when did it change? Probably after Valerie returned. Valerie was Jake's high school classmate who returned from overseas last year. The first time we met, she casually draped her arm around Jake's shoulder. Jake, I missed my old man. Jake laughed and punched her arm. Buzz off. Who's your son? I stood awkwardly to the side. Jake then remembered to introduce me. This is my girlfriend, Clara. Hi, Clara. Valerie extended her hand with a grin. Jake and I were like this in high school. Don't mind me. I forced a smile and shook her hand. That night, Jake reassured me. Valerie just has a carefree personality. We were in the same class in high school, and we're very close. Don't overthink it. I nodded, not saying much. But Valerie's presence became increasingly frequent. She constantly called Jake away for buddy gatherings, sometimes even during our dates. Clara. Jake would look at me apologetically. Valerie says it's urgent. Go ahead. I always said, not wanting to seem petty. Last month, we were celebrating our anniversary at a restaurant when Valerie called, saying she had gotten tickets to Jake's favorite esports match. It's tonight. Her voice was excitedly loud over the phone. Jake, hurry. The other guys are here. Jake's eyes immediately lit up, and he looked at me expectantly. I put down my knife and fork. Go, Clara. You're the best. He kissed my forehead. I'll make it up to you tomorrow. That night, I ate the meal for two alone. When I got home, I saw Jake's message. Valerie is amazing. We're in the front row. Photo. In the photo, Valerie was practically pressed against Jake, flashing a victory sign. I turned off my phone, spending a sleepless night. The next day, Jake came back with a huge bouquet of roses and a necklace. Don't be mad, he said coaxingly. I brought you flowers and a gift. I should have realized the problem then, but I chose to forgive him. The cold wind made me shiver. I realized I had unconsciously walked to the campus gates. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Miles. What did you decide? Need me to contact an advisor for you? I took a deep breath and replied, thank you. I want to go to the London School of Economics. It would be great if you could introduce me to Professor Zhang Senior contact there. After sending the message, I took one last look at the campus, turned, and headed toward the subway station. I had actually given Jake one last chance. That year, countless times I had felt angry and wronged by the closeness between him and Valerie. Every time my feelings wavered, every time I forgave him, I said the same thing. Jake, I want you to keep some distance from Valerie. He said he would take me to meet his friends so they would understand my importance to him. I looked into his eyes and nodded. 7 or 8 people were in the private room. Valerie was there, too, leaning against Jake and playing on her phone. As soon as I sat down, I heard a guy opposite me whisper, "Who's this?" The atmosphere in the room instantly grew awkward. Jake tried to liven things up, raising his glass. I gathered everyone today mainly to formally introduce my girlfriend, Clara. Everyone raised their glasses half-heartedly. Valerie openly rolled her eyes. After a few rounds of drinks, the conversation shifted to games and basketball. I was completely excluded, forced to look down at my phone. Jake, water. Valerie suddenly handed Jake an open bottle of mineral water, bringing it to his lips. Jake subconsciously took a sip from her hand before realizing, glancing at me awkwardly, "Valerie, my girlfriend is here." "Oh, come on. We always do this, don't we?" Valerie said dismissively. "Clara is being too controlling." Jake chuckled awkwardly and changed the subject. My stomach churned, and I excused myself to the restroom. When I returned, I heard laughter coming from the room in the hallway. Through the slightly ajar door, I saw Valerie hooking her arm around Jake's neck, chastising him playfully. "I told you it was a guy's night. Why did you bring the spouse?" "Exactly," another guy agreed. "I feel a little unnatural with Clara here." Jake laughed and pushed Valerie away. "Stop it. Clara will get upset." I pushed the door open. The laughter in the room stopped abruptly again. I didn't stay any longer. When Jake came home that night, he tried to explain. "Valerie just jokes around. Don't take it to heart." I looked at him for a long time, and finally, I told him I needed him to keep his distance from Valerie. He promised. That night, he surprisingly didn't reply to Valerie's messages and bought me a bouquet of flowers, apologizing earnestly. I thought he finally understood. Until the next day, when Valerie sent me ambiguous pictures of her and Jake, telling me that my boyfriend was sleeping soundly next to her. I called Jake, but he didn't pick up. I took a taxi to his house and found the door lock code had been changed. This time, I was truly exhausted. The day my study visa was approved, Miles messaged me saying he wanted to celebrate. "Just consider it a friend's send-off," he said on the phone. "I know a good Cantonese restaurant." I hesitated, then agreed, considering all his help. "Okay, thank you." Miles chose a table by the window. When I arrived, he stood up and pulled out my chair. "Congratulations." He handed me an exquisite gift box, a small gift. Inside the box was a fountain pen, engraved with my name and the words "Best wishes for the future." I was about to speak when a commotion erupted behind me. "Jake, I've wanted to try this place forever." A familiar voice pierced my eardrums. I heard their roast goose is incredibly authentic. I froze. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Miles noticed my distress, looked over my shoulder, and frowned slightly. "Should we move?" he whispered. Before I could answer, footsteps approached. "Clara." Jake's voice was full of disbelief. "What are you doing here?" I took a deep breath and turned around. Jake stood a few feet away, with Valerie beside him and a few of his friends behind them. They looked like they had just come from a party, and Jake's face was flushed with a slight inebriation. "Eating dinner," I answered succinctly. Jake's gaze scanned between Miles and me, finally resting on the fountain pen. His expression gradually darkened. "You found a replacement so quickly," he sneered. "No wonder you were in such a hurry to break up." I felt dizzy, my fingers unconsciously tightening around the napkin. "Jake," Miles suddenly interjected. "Watch your language. What's it to you?" Jake raised his voice sharply. "My relationship with my girlfriend is none of your business." "Ex-girlfriend," I corrected him, my voice surprisingly calm. "We've already broken up." Valerie suddenly cut in, her eyes challenging me. "Jake, don't be like this." "Clara, I mean." MS. Clara is free to eat with whoever she wants. Jake shoved Valerie's hand away and strode toward me. Just because I missed your call. Just because Valerie stayed at my house. You couldn't wait to find Miles. You think I didn't know he had a thing for you back in college? I looked at his distorted face and suddenly felt completely alienated. This was the man I had loved for 7 years. Slap. The sharp sound echoed in the restaurant. Jake's head snapped sideways, a red mark rapidly appearing on his cheek. That slap is for slandering Miles and me. My voice was trembling, but remarkably clear. When you were cozying up to Valerie, why didn't you think there was a problem? Valerie shrieked and rushed at me. How dare you hit Jake? She tried to push me, but Miles grabbed her arm. Get lost. I struck Valerie with my other hand. That slap is for all your scheming and manipulation. Valerie clutched her face, staring at me in disbelief. Jake finally reacted, pulling Valerie protectively behind him. Clara, are you insane? He roared. What has happened to you? What has happened to me? I laughed, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. Jake, think carefully. Who forced me to become like this? It was you choosing Valerie again and again. You trampling over my boundaries over and over. The restaurant manager hurried over. Miles whispered a few words to him. The manager nodded, turning to Jake and his group. Guests, please leave. Jake's friends exchanged nervous glances. One of them whispered, Jake, maybe we should go first. Jake shoved away the hand that tried to pull him, staring intently at me. Fine. Very well. Clara, you want to break up and be with Miles. Don't even think about it. He turned and stormed out. Valerie trotted after him, not forgetting to shoot me a glare over her shoulder. The restaurant fell silent. All eyes on our corner. My legs suddenly felt weak, and I nearly collapsed. Miles quickly caught me, helping me back to my seat. Drink some water. He handed me a glass of warm water. Do you need to go to the hospital? I shook my head, gripping the cup with shaking hands. I'm sorry. I ruined your celebration. I forced a smile. Miles shook his head. It's not your fault. He paused, then asked, are you going to cancel the study abroad plan? No. I wiped my tears. I must leave. Outside the window, Jake and his group stood by the road, waiting for a car. Jake, Clara went too far today. Valerie complained. In front of all those people. Shut up. Jake pushed her away irritably. Didn't you have to tag along? I was worried about you. Valerie wailed. And was I wrong? She's always been like this. Controlling everything. Even you playing games with your friends. Jake suddenly exploded. What do you know? If it weren't for you. Jake. Miles stood at the restaurant entrance. An unlit cigarette pinched between his fingers. 7 years. You still don't understand why she left. Jake turned on Miles. What's it to you? He scoffed. Don't think I don't know. In college you. Yes. I liked her. Miles interrupted calmly. But I never crossed the line. He exhaled a plume of smoke, glancing at Valerie's arm wrapped around Jake's. Unlike some people who have girlfriends, but still hug and cuddle their buddies. Valerie's face shifted. We were just what? Miles chuckled. Good friends. He looked at Jake. Then why did you freak out when she simply had dinner with me? Jake's face was ashen. She won't come back. Miles crushed the cigarette, but this time is different. Jake suddenly laughed. Who are you trying to fool? He pointed toward me in the restaurant. 7 years with her. I know her temper. This time the tantrum was just a little bigger. His voice faded, as if trying to convince himself. When she cools down. Miles shook his head, his eyes bordering on pity. You never deserved those 7 years of her love. A taxi arrived. Miles turned to leave, but Jake suddenly called out to him. Aren't you leaving soon for your PhD? Abroad. He sounded maliciously certain. She won't go with you. Miles stopped, smiling without turning around. We'll see about that. Jake felt an inexplicable sense of panic and suddenly desperately wanted to go back inside and apologize for his earlier words. But Valerie grabbed him. If you go back now, Clara will just yell at you again. Just give her a few days to cool off. Like all women do. She'll realize how good you are and come crawling back. Come on. We were going to rent a private room at the internet cafe. Right. Jake took a deep breath, looking at my retreating figure one last time. Fine. It wasn't until the day I boarded the plane, when Jake saw I hadn't softened my stance and had deleted all his contact methods, that he finally panicked. He rushed here, asking where you went. My roommate said breathlessly over the phone. I told him you quit your job and went overseas for advanced study. You left. You're never coming back. And I totally ripped into him. Don't worry. I didn't tell him you just left today. I never knew you put up with so much crap. Ugh. I retract my assessment that he was a good boyfriend. He and Valerie should just be locked up together, the man with no boundaries and the fake tomboy drama queen. I looked out the plane window at the clouds, softly replying, honestly. As the person involved, my heart felt neither sadness nor joy now. Oh, right. My roommate suddenly lowered her voice. Is Miles traveling with you? His lab student said he was supposed to leave last week. My gaze drifted involuntarily to the seat in front. Miles was reading a book. Clara. My roommate giggled slyly. Are you too? No. I cut her off. Just friends. After hanging up, Miles suddenly turned around. Want a blanket? He offered a soft wool blanket. It's a 10-hour flight. You might catch a chill. I took the blanket, then suddenly asked, why did you change your ticket? The cabin was quiet. His eyelashes cast a small shadow beneath his eyes. I told you. The lab documents. Miles closed his book and looked directly into my eyes. I wanted to accompany you. I know you don't want to talk about this now. His voice was gentle. But Clara, after 7 years, I want to fight for myself this time. I gripped the blanket, my throat tight. No need to answer now. He smiled, reopening his book. We have plenty of time. I turned my head away, saying nothing. The plane sliced through the clouds, and sunlight suddenly streamed in. In a daze, I remembered years ago, Jake reaching out to me in the sunlight. Excuse me, your book. Back then, we both thought we would be together forever. Now, I was starting my life anew. Faster than Jake reaching out was a message from Valerie. My phone started buzzing wildly as soon as my class ended. The screen flashed with an unfamiliar number, followed by over a dozen unread message notifications. Clara, what the hell did you tell Jake? He won't even answer my calls now. He's constantly searching for you. Who are you trying to fool with your high and mighty act? Do you think you won? I opened the screen expressionlessly. The latest one was a voice message. When I played it, Valerie's hysterical voice was piercingly loud in the quiet hallway. Do you know how many years Jake and I have known each other? Because of a petty woman like you, he won't even invite me to the guys' gatherings anymore. Are you happy now? I sneered, ready to block her. But the next message popped up. Do you think Miles is so great? He had a crush on you in college. Now he's taking advantage of the situation. And you just let him. My finger paused. Valerie's message reminded me of that day in the restaurant when Jake had questioned my relationship with Miles with the same cruel malice. I opened the reply box, typed a few words, and deleted them. Finally, I just sent one sentence. Jake and I are broken up. Your affairs have nothing to do with me. After sending the message, I decisively blocked the number. My phone finally quieted down. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of the academic building, watching the plane leaves fluttering outside. When did the love I fiercely defended devolve into such ugliness? I remembered another small incident. That time, Jake and I planned to see a movie. Just before leaving, Valerie called, saying her computer was broken and asking Jake to fix it. Jake agreed immediately, without even asking me if we could reschedule the movie. I waited at the movie theater entrance for 2 hours that day and ended up watching the movie alone. When I got home, Jake rationalized. Valerie had project files on her computer. It was urgent. Such a high-minded excuse made any further complaint from me seem unaccommodating. The most absurd part was that whenever I expressed discontent, Jake would say, "Why are you so petty? Valerie just has a carefree personality. She means no harm." And now, he finally realized the problem. Too late. Unfortunately, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Miles. Are you going to the class reunion? It had been over a month since the term started, and returning to academia was like diving into water for May-absorbed knowledge relentlessly. No, I'm heading back to the States next week. My advisor has a collaborative project to discuss in person. His message followed immediately. They insisted I attend the reunion. I understood. Go ahead. Then, remember to say hello to our old class advisor for me. Will do. He paused, then sent another message. Jake will probably be there. Irrelevant to me. Walking into the lab, I pushed all complicated matters out of my mind. I had more important things to do. New data to analyze. The seminar next week to prepare for. And my advisor's paper drafts to finish. My life had its own path. It was my fault for clinging to romance before. 2 weeks later, I was organizing data in the lab when a video call request from Miles popped up. I wiped my hands and answered. The background on the screen was a restaurant back home. Class reunion. I raised an eyebrow. Yep. He nodded, the camera shaking slightly. There's something I think you should see. I put down the test tube. What is it? Mila's camera suddenly panned towards the main hall. Through the screen, I saw Valerie clutching Jake's arm, refusing to let go. Jake looked furious. He tried several times to shake her off, but Valerie stuck to him like glue. Jake, what is wrong with you? Valerie's voice was so shrill I could hear it through the screen. Just because Clara said something, you're abandoning your friends. The surrounding classmates stopped talking, looking awkwardly at the scene. Jake's face went from red to white. He violently shook off Valerie's hand. That's enough. Valerie stumbled, her eyes wide with disbelief. You yelled at me. I should have yelled at you ages ago. Jake's voice was full of suppressed rage. Clara left me because you didn't know your boundaries. The entire hall fell silent. Valerie's face paled. Jake, you bastard. How many years have we known each other? All for one woman. She's not one woman. Jake practically roared. She's my girlfriend of 7 years. If you hadn't crossed the line repeatedly, we wouldn't have broken up. Valerie's tears burst forth. I crossed the line. We always interacted this way. Why didn't you say I was crossing the line back then? Because I was an idiot. Jake's voice suddenly dropped, filled with deep self-reproach. I was too stupid to realize your subtle manipulations. Too stupid to hurt Clara again and again. Valerie suddenly grabbed a wine glass from the table and threw the contents at Jake. Go to hell. Jake, do you think Clara will ever come back? She's already with Miles. The scene descended into chaos. Miles smoothly turned the camera back to himself, his expression complicated. That's the situation. I was unexpectedly calm. I see. That's quite a comical farce. I paused. What happened next? Valerie ran off crying. Jake chased after her to apologize, saying he spoke too harshly. But he wanted her to understand they really needed to maintain distance. Miles adjusted his glasses. Judging by Valerie's reaction, their relationship is completely severed. I quietly acknowledged it, unsure how I felt. Clara. His gaze looked directly into mine through the screen. Jake has changed a lot these past few months you've been gone. I lowered my eyes. People always change. Just as he suddenly stopped loving me, and then suddenly loved me deeply again. Miles hadn't expected to accept Jake's invitation. After the reunion scattered, Jake cornered him outside the hotel. Can we talk? Jake's voice was incredibly hoarse, just for old time's sake as college roommates. Miles initially wanted to refuse, but changed his mind when he saw Jake's bloodshot eyes. They found a 24-hour coffee shop. What do you want to know? Miles asked bluntly. Jake subconsciously rubbed the rim of his cup. Is she doing well? Better than when she was with you. Miles said. Her paper is about to be published, and her advisor highly regards her. Jake managed a bitter smile. I should have known she was always exceptional. He paused, his voice softening. Miles, did I really mess up? The coffee shop lighting was dim, making Jake's silhouette look fragile. Do you know why she chose LSE? Miles didn't answer directly, asking instead. Jake shook his head blankly. Because it was her dream school since sophomore year. Mila's voice was calm. But she gave it up because you needed to stay domestic to start your business. Jake's fingers clenched tightly. Her current job was through an application following your company's investment. Miles continued. She could have stayed for her PhD. The dean personally tried to keep her. Her love for you was no less than your love for her back then. Each word was like a blunt knife, slowly and heavily slicing through Jake's denial. That time she was in severe period pain, and you rushed out in the storm to buy her medicine. Miles suddenly changed the subject. Do you know what she told me later? Jake looked up. She said that was the first time she felt like you were the one for her. Forever. Mila's voice was quiet. Even when you argued later, remembering that rainy night would make her heart soften. Jake's tears suddenly hit the tabletop. He frantically wiped them away. But more kept falling. Then why his voice was fragmented? Why this time? Don't you know? Miles looked at him. Do you know what picture Valerie sent her? Miles pulled up a screenshot on his phone, the picture Valerie had sent me. Jake sleeping on the bed. Valerie wearing his shirt and flashing a victory sign. This was the night they pulled an all-nighter gaming. Jake had just assumed I was throwing a tantrum over a missed call. Jake's hands began to shake. I didn't know. You did know. Mila's voice suddenly became stern. You knew Valerie's feelings for you. And you knew her hostility toward Clara. You just enjoyed the feeling of being fought over. I didn't. Jake argued passionately. I truly only saw Valerie as a friend. Then why did you always side with Valerie every time they clashed? Miles pressed. Why did you repeatedly indulge Valerie crossing the line, knowing Clara was bothered by it? Jake was speechless. The coffee shop clock pointed to 3 a.m. Clara already told you. Miles stood up. Jake, you didn't deserve those 7 years of her love. In the deep autumn of London, fallen leaves covered the campus pathways. My phone vibrated in my pocket, another unfamiliar number. This was the 7th this week. I pressed decline and silenced my phone. Jake's persistence exceeded my expectations. He followed me from the US to the UK, calling from different numbers, and even waited outside my apartment building for 3 full days. Initially, I avoided him, but today, I decided to end it. Clara, seeing me walk toward him, Jake suddenly stood up from the bench. You finally agreed to see me. His voice was painfully hoarse. I looked at him calmly. 10 minutes. I have an experiment to get back to. Jake's eyes dimmed instantly, but he nodded anyway. Valerie changed the door code when I was drunk. She plied me with alcohol at the friends' gathering that day. The gaming console, I kept it locked in the study cabinet. She found it and insisted on playing. His throat bobbed. I was completely unaware of the photo. And that night we played all night. I actually meant to tell you, but it was really late. I looked at him, cutting him off coldly. Jake, you always look for excuses. Jake looked up sharply. You allowed her to ply you with alcohol. You indulged her rummaging through your things. And you chose to stand by her side repeatedly. My voice was soft. Jake, you personally ground our trust down to nothing. His fingers clenched. Do you remember our first argument? Sophomore year. You secretly enrolled in a pottery class to surprise me. I looked at his trembling eyelashes. The finished cup was incredibly ugly. But you held that crooked mug and said, every time we argue, I'll use this to pour you water as an apology. That ugly mug broke the first year we graduated. Just like your thoughtfulness gradually disappeared. I stood up. Don't come back. I'm busy. And I'm doing well. He opened his mouth, looking at me for a long time, finally just saying softly, I'm sorry. As I walked away, Jake stubbornly thrust his umbrella into my hand. Walking toward the station in the rain himself, he said I didn't need to return it. He was flying back the next day. Back at the apartment, I threw the black umbrella into the trash bin. Time flew quickly. In the blink of an eye, I had spent 2 full seasons in London. The lab lights still burned late into the night. I rubbed my aching eyes, inputting the final set of data into the computer. The curve on the screen perfectly matched the theoretical model, meaning my research had achieved a breakthrough. Congratulations. Mila's voice came from the doorway. I told you this direction was viable. I accepted the coffee, thanks to your advice. Over the past 2 years, Miles had consistently maintained the perfect distance. He provided the most professional academic guidance, offered the most thoughtful care in life, but never crossed the line, even during important moments like my paper publication and PhD acceptance. He only offered a brief hug and said, I'm proud of you. My phone vibrated. A message from my advisor. Sue, don't forget tomorrow's academic conference. Professor Smith from MIT specifically inquired about your research. I replied, then looked up to see Miles organizing lab equipment. Miles, I suddenly spoke. Thank you for these past 2 years. He turned around, gently shaking his head. No need to thank me. He paused, then added, has Jake contacted you recently? I shook my head. Since our conversation in the coffee shop, Jake hadn't appeared again. But I occasionally heard updates from classmates back home. He had quit his original job, started seeing a psychologist, and had almost completely cut ties with his former friends. He apparently opened a psychological counseling studio. Miles handed me a local economics weekly. There was an interview with Jake inside. It specializes in relationship problem solving. The photo showed Jake in a simple white shirt, his eyes much calmer, In the article, he frankly admitted that he had hurt someone important due to a lack of boundaries and now wanted to help more people avoid similar regrets. I closed the magazine. The young man who was once so ambitious had finally learned to grow. But the cost was too high. What about Valerie? I asked casually. Miles adjusted his glasses. Supposedly, she started seeing another married man and was publicly exposed by the wife. Her reputation in the circle is ruined. I wasn't surprised by that outcome. Valerie's pattern of boundary crossing under the guise of friendship was bound to have consequences eventually. As we left the lab, Miles suddenly stopped. I'm heading back to the States next month. I was startled. So soon? The lab back home needs me to lead a project. His voice was quiet. Do you want to go back and visit? The streetlights stretched our shadows long. We were both adults. I knew what he was implying. No. I finally shook my head. I have research to focus on. He looked at me intently, finally nodding. I respect your choice. Back at the apartment, I opened my computer to check emails. The MIT acceptance letter lay quietly in my inbox, next to an enthusiastic invitation from Professor Smith. Outside the window, the lights of London sparkled like a river of stars. I knew that my own springtime had just begun.